Hello, my name is Lauren, and I'll be telling you today about some of my work with my advisor, Ed Volk. Picture this very common scenario for graduate students. You are grading final exams for your TA-ship, and you accept that you're error-prone and rush through the last 100 exams, spending 20 hours total. Afterwards, you get a notification on Slack from the class instructor, Tim. He was impressed by how fast you sent in the grades and asked how long it took you. You might have some expectations about what he wants to hear. So you respond, 30 hours, the students got thorough feedback. Oddly enough, you immediately after get a Slack notification from your advisor who wanted to check in on your manuscript progress. Yikes, why wasn't I a more efficient grader, you ask yourself. So you tell your advisor, I only spent 5 hours grading, and all the rest of my time went to writing our manuscript. This vignette exemplifies several important points. People sometimes say different lies to different audiences, and one reason might be that the audience or the speaker has different goals, wanting to make the audience think different things. Another reason might be that the audience sometimes has different beliefs, determining what lies might seem plausible to them. What both of these reasons might seem to have in common is some notion of theory of mind. While the ability to reason about other minds might seem to be an essential component to lying, previous research have often emphasized the role of the individual's own beliefs. While speakers may want to say what is best for themselves, such as they want to impress their advisor, they may constrain their own lies because they don't want to violate their moral code, or it is too cognitively demanding to lie. People need to inhibit saying the truth. We call these individual-based accounts of lying, which propose that lying is driven by the speaker's own beliefs. In contrast to these individual-based accounts, other recent work proposes fundamentally dyadic frameworks for deception. Speakers may want to say what's best for themselves, but they don't want to be caught. Meanwhile, their audience wants to successfully catch lies, but they want to avoid false accusations. We call these theory of mind-based accounts, and broadly, they propose that lying is robust to the audience's belief. In previous work to capture patterns of lying behavior that follow from principles of dyadic reasoning, we developed a recursive probabilistic framework with adversarial agents. We propose that people, or senders, generate lies by predicting how a rational receiver will respond by calling out a possible lie. The receiver, in turn, reasons about whether a rational sender would have generated a lie, and they reason recursively in this manner on and on. Critically, this model places theory of mind at its center, as the agents make decisions by reasoning about their own goals and the goals and beliefs of the other player. This model generates 3 key predictions about lying behavior. Attending to one's own goal when the truth is less favorable, senders should preferably choose to lie when it would benefit them more. Senders should keep in mind plausibility. When choosing lies, senders should consider the likelihood that a lie will be detected. And lastly, and most importantly, what messages are plausible is subjective. So senders should consider plausibility for the specific audience. This behavior of lying to another person's beliefs, even when they are different from one's own beliefs, would be highly diagnostic evidence of a role for theory of mind in lying. In previous work, we empirically tested these model predictions. We introduced a 2-player marble game. One player sampled 10 marbles from a box and had to report to another player how many red marbles they supposedly drew. Importantly, they were motivated to report more red marbles for more points, so they could lie to achieve this goal, but the risk of another player potentially detecting their lie. In this paradigm, people tended to produce lies when the truth was worse off, showing that their actions were driven by their goals. Furthermore, when there is an increase in the base rate distribution of red marbles, and therefore more red marbles are likely to be sampled, senders tended to lie by reporting more red marbles. These previous findings show that senders combine information about goals and beliefs when deciding how to act. Finally, we consider the most crucial prediction, that people can specifically cater their lies to the audience's belief. In this previous experimental design, the receiver and sender both saw the base rate of marbles, and so they shared the same beliefs about plausibility. Critically, this means that such a design could not tease apart whether it is the receiver's beliefs driving people's lies, as in the theory of mind-based account, or the sender's own beliefs, as in the individual-based account. While this prediction would be most diagnostic of theory of mind reasoning, this previous design could not address our main question. To get at this question, we can adapt the two-player marble task to restrict information driving players' beliefs. Showing that people can generate lies for the audience's unique beliefs is no rudimentary task. An experiment must independently manipulate the sender's beliefs and the sender's thinking about the receiver's different beliefs. But this is non-trivial because the sender needs to be convinced the receiver is actually naive to the sender's different beliefs. And so we need to manipulate these beliefs honestly. In the experimental paradigm, the sender sees all the red and blue marbles in a box. The box contains a hole in the middle through which the receiver can see into the box. But importantly, the receiver cannot see the rest of the box like the sender does. The sender randomly samples 10 marbles from the box, and they are then asked to report how many red marbles they supposedly drew. The receiver does not see the true sample, but just sees what the sender reported. They then either accept the report as true or reject it as a lie. If the receiver accepts the report, the sender gets points for reported red marbles, and the receiver for blue. If the receiver rejects and catches the sender lying, they always gain 5 points and the sender loses 5. And if the receiver rejects, but the sender was actually telling the truth, the receiver faces a -5 penalty. This design allows us to independently manipulate the receiver's belief about the distribution of marbles and the sender's belief about the marbles. The base rate of marbles visible to either player could be either 20%, 50%, or 80% of the marbles being red. The conditions were crossed within subject for 9 total conditions. This task was designed to induce asymmetric beliefs in the players. Suggesting to participants that their base rate belief should be based on the number of red and blue marbles in different shaded boxes is one thing, but actually convincing them that the players have fundamentally asymmetric base rate beliefs is another. So we must first verify that our manipulation satisfied the challenging constraint. The senders recognized their own beliefs were different from what they thought of the receiver's beliefs. For our manipulation check, we asked participants intermittently throughout the task to rate using slider scales their own beliefs about the proportion of red marbles and their opponent's beliefs. And we examined their responses across both player roles and across each of the 9 conditions. Here, the x-axis represents the receiver's base rate condition, and the color represents the sender's base rate condition. We found that, as expected, senders use information from the full box to inform their beliefs. Similarly, receivers use the information available to them from the hole in the box to inform their own beliefs. When asked about the sender's beliefs, receivers, having no further information, believe that senders have the same belief as themselves. This opens the possibilities for receivers to be exploited by senders. And for the critical question, what do senders think receivers believe? We found that senders indeed use the distribution of marbles visible through the hole to assess receivers' beliefs. Furthermore, this means that senders thought that receivers could have different beliefs from themselves. Altogether, our manipulation successfully influenced the senders' and receivers' own beliefs and what they thought of the other player's beliefs. For our main question, we examine how senders' expectations about the receiver's beliefs influence their lying behavior in 1, how often do people lie? And 2, what lies do people say? For how often do people lie, the theory of mind-based account would predict that the distribution of reports that the receiver would be willing to accept increases despite the sampling distribution staying the same. Therefore, we would predict that people should lie more frequently when the receiver has a higher base rate belief. We examine the sender's rate of lying across each of the conditions. The panels represent the sender's base rate beliefs, while critically the x-axis reflects the receiver's beliefs. If people craft lies to their own beliefs, we would not a priori expect any difference in lying behavior based on what the sender thinks of the receiver's beliefs. Alternatively, if people craft their lies to the audience's beliefs, we would expect an increasing effect. The sender should lie more frequently when the sender thinks the receiver has a higher base rate belief. Holding the sender's belief constants, we find this pattern of behavior. The senders increase how often they lie in larger receiver base rate belief conditions. And this same pattern of behavior replicates across different sender beliefs. And so we showed that people adjust how frequently they lie to the audience's beliefs. Finally, we examine the most crucial question: what lies do people say? The theory of mind-based account predicts that as the receiver's base rate belief increases, the receiver is more willing to believe that larger reports are true. So, people should produce larger lies, knowing that they can get away with these lies. Here we examine for each condition the mean lie, so the average reported value conditioned on the sender lying. In our previous work, in which sender and receiver shared the same beliefs about the distribution of red marbles, we found that senders tended to say larger lies with higher base rates. In our current study, we would expect to replicate this finding when the sender thinks the receiver shares the same beliefs. Indeed, we find that we were able to replicate this result. But critically, in the previous study, there are only these 3 bars to examine lying behavior. These findings leave other predictions unresolved. For one, the sender might decide how large of a lie to say based only on their own beliefs, in which case we would expect the bars to be flat across the receiver's base rate conditions on the x-axis. Alternatively, if people spontaneously use theory of mind when lying, then senders should adjust their lies to the receiver's beliefs, in which case we would expect the pattern of increasing bars to be the same across panels. Both models paint interesting pictures for the cognitive mechanisms underlying lying, and importantly, they only produce distinct predictions when senders think receivers have different beliefs from themselves. And our findings show that senders seem to be adjusting their lies to the receiver's beliefs. Importantly, this verifies the theory of mind prediction that people can adjust what lies they say to the audience's beliefs. In conclusion, people can spontaneously tune their lies to audience's beliefs. And they can do this for how often they lie and what lie they say. And this even occurs when the audience's beliefs differ from the speaker's beliefs. Overall, this strongly supports assumptions of theory of mind models. People can and do reason about other minds when deceiving. Thanks to my lab and my funding sources, and thank you all for listening.